All right, guys, back at it with another video. Today we're talking about Israel Adesanya, the last stylebender, um, unsuccessful in his comeback fight after taking about 13 months off. Man, you know, where does Israel Adesanya go from here? He loses to Joe Pyfer in the second round via TKO finish. He looked good. I got to be honest, guys. Like prior to the finish in the fight, Izzy looked good. I'm not gonna say he looked like vintage Izzy, but he was moving, he was connecting, he was landing punches. But there was a noticeable power difference when Joe Pyfer was landing, and just the fact that Joe Pyfer looked so much more bigger than Israel Adesanya. And when I say bigger, I don't mean taller. Like he just looked denser. He looked just like the bigger man. And one thing for Izzy is Izzy was never super big for middleweight. But if you ever seen Israel Adesanya in person, he is a big dude. But he was never like really big for that division. He fought a lot of guys who were bigger. Paulo Costa, Alex Pereira, these guys. But you could see the noticeable power difference with Joe Pyfer. And I do see to a certain, degree that Israel Adesanya has kind of lost his edge and has lost just that it factor he used to have. And I do think it's a confidence thing. And I know in his post-fight interview, he said, I'm going to go again and again. But my recommendation for Israel Adesanya is to retire as a two-time middleweight champion, a UFC Hall of Famer, and go from there. I mean, what do you say for somebody who's done it? Like, he's done so much in his career and so much of what other middleweight fighters will never be able to do. Joe Pyfer will not be a two-time middleweight champion, more than likely. He will not be. He may not even become a champion. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how hard that road is. And when you think about Israel Adesanya and who he beat to become champion, he beat Robert Whittaker. He beat Pereira to get the belt back. Look who's the champ right now, Khamzat Chimaev. Like, these guys, like this, the competition is so steep, it's so competitive at the very top of the UFC rankings. It's so hard to become a champion. And not only did Adesanya become a champion, he defended it 5 times. Really 6 if you think about it. But he beat Robert Whittaker 3 times. He legitimately beat Robert Whittaker 3 times. Essentially. Marvin Vettori, Alex Pereira. The list goes on and on. Israel Adesanya has had a tremendous career. He's done so much for the sport. The last thing you want is to tarnish your legacy with some losses at the tail end of your career. And someone who I see this happen to, or who I saw this play out with, was Tony Ferguson. And that was sad to see. That was legitimately sad to see Tony Ferguson go out the way he did, knowing how great Tony Ferguson was. And to be honest, once Tony Ferguson lost that interim fight with Justin Gaethje and lost maybe 1 or 2 after that, he should have retired from the UFC. But instead, he lost, 7, 8 in a row, and against guys who could never touch him in his prime of his career. And that's not what I want for Israel Adesanya. I want Israel Adesanya to retire and ride off in the sunset, a great career. And don't allow these up-and-coming fighters, to make a name off of you when they couldn't touch you when you were at your peak, when you were in your prime. And I know it's a martial art way, and Izzy is like that, where he wants to give these young guys a shot. But if you can't knock off those young guys, there's no point in staying around, not in this game. And I think about, Dustin Poirier, when he was already thinking about retiring, and they gave him Benoit Saint-Denis, and he finished Benoit Saint-Denis. And he was like, he had to prove it to himself that he's still that guy. And I just think it's time for Israel Adesanya. And, it's sad, see the legends of the sport, retire and move on, but this is the game. And you guys know Israel essentially retired Anderson Silva when he fought Anderson Silva, and they had that clash, and they moved on from there. So Israel Adesanya, hell of a career. I do recommend that he does retire. And it was a great fight until the finish. I think if Israel had stayed a little bit more patient, not traded so much with him in the second round, been a little bit more disciplined, maybe this fight would have carried on into later rounds, but I think that power difference was huge, and I think, you know, he's unfortunately lost his edge. Father Time is undefeated, and I think the best thing for Israel Adesanya is to go ahead and retire. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Back again tomorrow, another video. Let's go.